I mean, anybody can really do it, right? Can be a write-in candidate.
You could be.
Yeah, if you have enough clout.
I think so. Yeah.
So who going for Kanye?
Not me.
Anybody? Certainly not me.
Man.
But like, it's so weird, right? Where it's like, what are our options? Our options are Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kanye West.
Well, there's a whole bunch of other people on here too. I'm
The
looking at
CEO of
this.
Starbucks is one of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wait, with the
Yeah, we checked this one out. Like,
Yeah, and the guy with the funny hat is, what is it, the boot on the head or something? He's one of them.
Cause like there's some just some random people that are on here. Like I'm looking at somebody named like they have like different parties too. There's like the Unity Party, the Green, Libertarian, Prohibition, Socialist Workers. I've never seen any. I didn't know that all of these things.
who's the Libertarian candidate?
Some guy named Joe. Yeah, Joe Jurgensen, and Jeremy Cohen.
And Jeremy what?
Jeremy Cohen.
Cool. Walter, what did you say?
No, that guy that Rudy was talking about, he's been running for president for like 30 years now. Like the past, like he runs every time.
Years.
I don't know what the exact like number, but he's been running for like a long time. Like he does it like every presidential election he runs.
One day he's gonna win.
Flex.
He probably is
He'll
gonna
never win.
I mean, he's either gonna win or he's gonna die. But that's a last commitment, man.
That's a question.
That's commitment. Nobody deserves to be president more than that.
I wonder his VP. What would his VP be? I've never seen his VP.
It would be you. You his biggest fan.
Yo, we were dying when we saw that.
That's
picture,
my guy
man.
right there. I vote for him.
Would you? We probably discussed this already, but would you guys vote for a third-party candidate?
Yeah, if their values and views align with what I think I'd want my president to be, yeah.
It's interesting, man. Because it's so strange, right? Because there's just enough people that think voting for a third-party candidate is a waste of time, that a third-party candidate doesn't win. There's just enough people who think that. Right?
Yeah. I was speaking to a friend of mine who said the same thing.
Well, it shouldn't be. I shouldn't be criticized for my vote just because the system's fucked up.
Yeah, man. Fix the shit. Then if the main guy, if I don't agree with the main guy, why should I vote for them? This lesser of two evils thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's manipulation, man.
I think like a third candidate will only work if somebody goes against their own party and runs.
Well, yeah, I think there was some guy who was trying to do that in like the Democrat I think in both parties there was some person trying to do that.
So if say Bernie Sanders, for example, decided I'm off this Democratic Party thing, he would get enough votes.
He might not, but like he'll be the closest one.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get enough votes
is.
to win, but yeah, I think he would get votes a lot, but not enough to win.
I mean, because like, who's more popular than Bernie Sanders?
Some people, I mean, him and Elizabeth Warren is another candidate, but I don't think she'd have more votes than Bernie.
Yeah, so popularity doesn't equal likability, though.
Huh?
Popularity does not equal likability.
It doesn't, but I don't think. But I don't think she would even still like. She may have a lot of people in her party, but I think Bernie has more supporters than she would.
Well, popularity equals votes, and that's what counts at the end of the day, at the election.
But does it? Because Hillary won the popular vote and lost.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that. What's good with the popular vote? The electoral vote.
Are we starting the podcast now? Because we should start the podcast and discuss it.
Well, we've been recording for a minute now.
You could just hit record. I mean, there's no reason
Okay.
Yeah, we've been recording.
I got you.
Okay.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12. Damn, episode 12 already of the Lucrative Vision podcast. I am your host, Njoga. Today I'm joined with Hans Mugodo, Rudy Aguilar, Tom Ogindo, and Walter Ogindo. Gentlemen, what's up?
What up?
Chilling.
So
we out here.
We are here. Baby.
Yeah, so I know our volume's kind of low, ladies and gentlemen. Just forgive us for working on our, getting mics and all that. So, you know what I'm saying? Just be here first. You know what I'm saying? You're getting premium content first. Before we get bougie and we start having, professional work. You could say you were here for the grind. You were day ones. So gentlemen, I know we were just discussing before, so we can continue with the topic that we just had.
The Hillary winning the popular vote, but still not winning the election. I think that's something separate though, because she didn't win because of the Electoral College, which is a whole different animal of its own. I think. Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you tell people to go out and vote, but like if the people feel like the vote doesn't count, if the Electoral College ultimately decides who's going to.
Can anybody actually break down the Electoral College for me? Because I think I understand it, but I don't know if I fully do.
Google can.
Google? All right, hold on.
I mean, if somebody like knows it, like, I want us to have the most premium information possible. So if
I hear that, but nobody wants to step in front of the train and try it, give it a go before we go to Google.
Nah, I don't know. I'm misinformed on that, so I don't want to say the wrong information.
Okay, I am. We'll go to Google. I don't have my browser pulled up, so if somebody else does, you guys can Google it.
We'll fake worried about comments that we don't have yet.
So basically, I'm looking at it, and from what I'm seeing, it was created by the framers of the U.S. Constitution as an alternative to electing the president by popular vote or by Congress. Each state elects a number of representatives to the Electoral College that is equal to its number of senators, 2 from each state, plus its number of delegates in the House of Reps.
So
basically, they choose the candidate for them.
So what's the United States considered? Is it a democracy or a republic?
I think
or is there a difference?
There is a difference between the two. I don't know, but it's interesting because I hear a lot of people say it's a democracy, but I think before it used to be a republic. I guess that's another thing we gotta Google, what the difference between democracy and republic.
So, quick question before we continue. So, do you feel like the Electoral College was put in place because the government didn't have trust in people's voting decision?
I think just the way states were set up back then, it wasn't an equal amount of people in each states, so it could sway an election.
Okay,
that's the argument for it right now too.
So right now we're a democracy because a democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives, while a republic is a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives.
By the people and their elected representatives.
Yeah,
and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarchy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, and then I really have to figure out what's the actual difference.
I just pulled something up if you guys want to see it.
Alright, let me see.
Yeah.
So the key difference between a democracy and a republic lies in the limits placed on government by the law, which has implications for minority rights. Both forms of government tend to use representational systems, i.e., citizens vote to elect politicians to represent their interests and form the government. In a republic, a constitution or charter of rights protects certain inalienable rights that cannot be taken away by the government, even if it has elected by a majority of voters. In a pure democracy, the majority is not restrained in this way and can impose its will on the minority. Most modern nations, including the United States, are democratic republics with a constitution, which can be amended by popular elected government. This comparison therefore contrasts the form of government in most countries today with theoretical construct of a pure democracy, mainly to highlight the features of a republic.
Well, this is a comparison.
Yeah. So I think we're both. I think the United States is both a democracy and a republic. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, they called it a democratic republic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Half and half.
So it's interesting, right? Like it's almost better to be a republic in a way than it is to be a democracy, in the sense that you have, like, I guess the rights thing is the key difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because in a republic, laws.
Other people can like vote on what your rights should be, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your rights are protected.
Well, let's look up countries that are a republic. We could say that, but in practice, we don't know if that's actually true to be better.
That's true. What countries are republics?
So some of them that are republic are
United Kingdom, Norway, Canada,
Brazil, India, Switzerland, Germany.
Yeah, and like that's an interesting thing with regards to the UK, right? Because a lot of people would instantly think that the UK would be a monarchy because it has a queen, but it's actually a republic, right?
Yeah.
Because the queen is not actually a part of the government, essentially.
Just basically, I think she's a public figure, if I'm correct. Or
she's like ceremonial. She's like a mascot.
So she does have some form of the government, though. I don't think it's just she has no control over it. But then what would make her queen?
Well, she's a symbol. She's an icon. Like, people get knighted by the queen. They get their honors delivered by the queen. Like, for example, like when we want to honor in the U.S., right, our armed forces and people like that, it's usually the president that does that, right?
Yeah.
But over there, it's the queen that does it. That gives them their kind of title. Doesn't mean they go on.
No, I was gonna say like here where we give people like a presidential medal of honor or something like that.
Yeah, things like that. They have OBEs and MBEs. A lot of people are called sir. They have like the prefix sir. All of that stuff, knightings. All of that stuff.
Yeah, but I just looked it up and it said she plays a role in the constitutional role in opening and dissolving parliament and approving bills. And this is from the parliament website.
Wait, in opening and resolving parliament?
Yeah, and bills. Yeah, opening and dissolving parliament and approving bills before they come into law. Let me see if I can share my screen. Share screen.
But okay, so they can approve them, but can a queen veto a bill?
I don't think so.
So, do you guys see my screen?
Huh?
Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Let me see.
So, along with the House of Commons and the House of the Lords, the Crown is an integral part of the institution of Parliament. The Queen plays a constitutional role in opening and dissolving Parliament and approving bills before they become law. So the Crown.
Yes, yeah. Okay, your screen doesn't actually show the actual.
Yeah, it just shows OneDrive.
OneDrive.
I need a OneDrive.
Can you see it now?
Well, share it again.
You saw it?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So the crown. There's another way of referring to the monarchy, which is the oldest part of the system of the government in this country. Time has reduced the power of the monarchy, and today is a broadly ceremonial, and the current UK monarch is Queen Elizabeth II. So why did it say open and dissolve Parliament? The Crown opens Parliament through the state opening, marking the beginning of the Parliament year. The Crown only dissolves Parliament before a general election under the conditions laid out in the Fixed Term Parliament Act of 2011. So just recently that.
Well, think about it like this, right? In basketball, you have mascots and cheerleaders. They open the show, but who gets the job done? The coaches and the players.
Yeah, but she has to approve. But she has to approve a bill to become law. Then that could be a problem, right?
But can she veto a bill?
Yeah, I don't know because I'm seeing here.
But she can refuse to approve it.
She can refuse to approve a bill.
Because if she
can see where it says that.
But so
when a bill has been approved,
so she has to approve any bill. That's what you're saying.
But I'm looking on that same UK thing. It says also the Queen has to remain strictly neutral with respect to political matters.
Yeah. Let me read this. When a bill has been approved by a majority in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, it is formally agreed to by the Crown. This is known as the royal assent. This turns a bill into an act of Parliament, allowing it to becoming law in the UK. So, like it's like as they were saying, it's a ceremonial role, right? It's kind of like what's the purpose of putting your signature on the end of a contract, right? It's just to. Well, that's actually a bad example. That's a bad example. But you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like it's ceremonial. Like unless the Queen also has the ability to veto a bill, then it's not real power.
Well, yeah, because I'm looking at the Royal UK and it says by convention the Queen does not vote or stand for election. However, Her Majesty does have important ceremonial and formal roles in relation to the government.
Ceremonial. So the Queen is not going to like just refuse to show up for something. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't refuse to give somebody the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, it also says that she can like appoint the Prime Minister. Well, yeah. Let me see what else. That's just one article. Let me see what else can be done, I guess.
She's like a priest at a wedding, right? You can go to like the court and get married through the courts, and no priest has to be present. But having a priest present is ceremonial. It's a way to make it valid in the eyes of whatever. It's a religious thing, essentially. It's kind of religious in a way.
But do you think she's actually neutral? Like she's supposed to be. Do you think she's actually neutral?
Well, I think so.
If she can't, like, when does the Queen ever come out and oppose publicly and oppose anything that's been agreed upon by government?
But the key word is publicly.
Well, yeah, but if she does it privately, then it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to the public because it's public policy. If she might not be neutral. She might have opinions, but you and I have opinions. It doesn't mean they're going to become law. Everyone has an opinion. But with respects to what the government does, she has to kind of take a neutral stance.
Basically, I'm looking, she's like the head of state of like what the U.S. is. She's the head of state where she has no rules or duties.
The prime minister is the head of state. The prime minister holds all the power.
Yeah, she can.
All the power of a head of state.
Yeah, and the prime minister can appoint her to give power if the prime minister wanted to. But like you said, yeah, the prime minister is the one who does it. But they can appoint the queen to if they wanted to. They have that power.
Yeah, royalty is a family lineage. right? It has nothing to do. You don't have to really go to school to become royalty. You don't have to be qualified to be in government in order to become royalty. You just have to be born into that specific family, right? And in some countries, that holds a lot of weight, but just not in the UK. Like in Saudi Arabia, for example, that's a country that's pretty much ran through lineages, right?
Yeah.
Family lineages.
I don't know. It's very complicated from just looking at articles and stuff. It's not clear as it would be in the United States, I guess.
Did you know
it's clear? Like it's clear because the bald. We all understand that the bald eagle is an animal, right? And it's not implicated in public policy, right? But because the queen is a person, a human being that lives in this big castle, we kind of assume that they must have some sort of huge power
or ultimate say
in public, in public policy, and that's not the case.
Well, that's probably because they did at one point, right? But how recent that point is
exactly, they did at one point.
So it's just human nature to think like, did they relinquish all their power? I'm saying it's human nature to be skeptical and think they didn't relinquish all their power.
They obviously didn't because they live in a big old house paid for by the government.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, in that way, they didn't relinquish all their power, right? Because it's still a royal family. It's still the same family that's going to be allowed to be in that role or whatever. But like, it's very restricted. It's not even real power. It's almost like slavery, to be honest.
Well, it is real power because you're part of the royal family. You can't be prosecuted for any crimes and stuff like that. So there is a benefit to it.
Yeah. Like a diplomatic benefit.
No, even within their country. Like,
so any final thoughts on that one?
I think we're beating that one to death.
Yeah.
We were talking about voting overall, but like overall, I don't know how much your vote naturally counts.
Well, it can't be absolute because otherwise you would just count up the amount of votes, and the person with the most, even if it's by one, wins.
Yeah, but I mean, even like, you're not even talking about just the voting of the actual vote counting. Like, you vote for people, but like, do they do what you want them to do, right? Because there's money in politics. People put money in there for other things. That money is more influential than your actual vote and your commitment to the people.
Yeah.
That's very true. In fact, I mean, money at the end of the day does drive public policy, especially here in the U.S.
That's what I'm saying. Does anyone's vote actually count, regardless of electoral college or not?
It counts to some extent. It does count to some extent, right? Like I'm not like aware of this idea that like just to be cynical about voting necessarily.
Yeah.
Because I do think a vote does have the ability or the possibility of affecting public policy, but it doesn't have the same drive that money does. It just doesn't. Somebody pays you.
I'm talking about like on a more national, not like a local level. On a local level, it's way more important, like your judges, your school board, and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. That's a debate.
I'm talking about like national senators, like representative, president, things like that, where it's like much more public policy on a broad, basic level.
Wait, well, state senators are voted for within the state, right?
Yeah, but they still control the national policy. These states has a vote in the laws that become the senators represent the states for the public of the government, the whole government.
Yeah, I mean, but that's really like essentially what the people's entry point into having a voice within the government is, right? So like you vote for a person within your local state that best represents you, and that person you you trust that person with the responsibility of representing you in Congress or in the House of Representatives, right? So,
Yeah, that's my point. We do that, but does that actually matter if they're getting money?
if they're getting paid, yeah, I mean, that's debatable, I guess. That is debatable. Do you think it does?
I don't know, because I don't want to say voting doesn't matter, but like there's too many examples of where money directly influenced into public policy.
Yeah, I mean that kind of depends. I always believe that definitely depends on the integrity of the person that's in government, and if the integrity of if the integrity of the government can't be trusted, then to some extent it is the fault of the citizens because we put those people in power, and slowly over time things can go south, right?
Yeah, but before we even get to the choice of putting there, the Democratic Republican side choose who the choice is.
I don't think. I think you guys hit it on. You guys said it. I think not too long ago, but I think your vote counts mostly on like a lower level, like the local and state levels, more so than the presidency. Because as we noticed, the last election with 2016, yeah, Hillary won the popular, but she didn't win the election altogether. So I don't think in terms of the presidency, your vote really matters as much as it or holds much weight as much as it would on the local and state levels. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, here's a scary thing though, that right now we're kind of we don't actually know what's true and what's not anymore. Like our methods of detecting the truth out there in the media is actually worse than it's ever been in a time where we have the access to the most information than we've ever had. Like it's possible, for example, to completely be in a full echo chamber if you just search for the things you tend to search for anyway on the internet. You know what I mean? It's possible to completely miss the other side of any political argument because of Google's or the internet's algorithms that are built to keep it.
Yeah, and I guess to expand on my point, what I was saying though, but I think though, because I'm still confused with the electoral college. Isn't the electoral? Don't you win like the electoral vote for a state based on where the popular vote matters? So I guess whoever has the most popular vote wins the electoral college. Isn't that correct, or am I wrong?
Well, the way I understand it is it the House? They count the amount of representatives.
Yeah.
In each state, and the representatives are dictated by the amount of people that live inside those states. So you could have quite like small states in terms of landmass, like New York is quite small if you compare it to I don't know, Texas
or California.
Right? But like New York will have more people than Texas, and therefore it will have more representatives than Texas, right? This is just how I understand it. I might be missing out some details. And that's how they determine how many representatives are in each state. And then those representatives of those states have a greater say in who the state as a whole essentially votes for in the general election.
But I also think like within the counties, within the states, they're broken down into counties. So you could have a popular vote, but like the one county could be a Republican county that won the electoral vote for that county. So I think they add up all the electoral votes for the county. Then also based off that, you have like the way they delegate the states and counties are different everywhere. So it's kind of complicated.
Oh, so there's like an electoral process per county as well?
I think like per state within the states it can get divided up. That's how they count the vote for the state.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's some states. Some states, though, I'm looking and it says some states, if you win the popular vote, you win the state's electoral vote. So that's where it's like it's
what are those? What are those states? Just so we can like.
But can you share your screen or you're on your phone?
I'm on my phone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I already touched that.
Huh?
Wait, what's the website called? Or what did you type in?
Does your vote matter?
Does your vote matter?
And it was from the National Society.
Yeah, it seems like it just like has to jump through a lot of hoops, right? Initially, in order to finally matter, right?
So I don't know if you guys can see it, but I have it up.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Today, most American citizens over the age of 18 are entitled to vote in federal and state elections. But voting was not always a default right for all Americans. What is the part that we need to know? Why your vote matters. Where's the part you saw?
Wait, go to the paragraph where it says why your vote matters.
If you ever think that one vote in a sea of millions cannot make much of a difference, consider some of the closest elections in U.S. history. In 2000, Al Gore narrowly lost the Electoral College vote to George W. Bush. The election came down to the recount in Florida, where Bush had won the popular vote by such a small margin that it triggered an automatic recount. And the Supreme Court case, Bush versus Gore, in the end, Bush won. So what they didn't add is that the Supreme Court stopped them from recounting the votes. I don't know if they're going to add that there, but they stopped them. So that's the context that's needed there.
Like 0.009%
of votes in the state. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's
so
not even a
they
full
were doing a
person.
recount, and then in that case, the Supreme Court ruled that to stop the vote, the election is over. So in the end, Bush won the Florida by 0.009% of the votes cast in the state, or 537 votes. That's small enough. That much votes. That's crazy. Had 600 more pro Gore votes had gone to the polls in Florida that November, they may have been an entirely different president from 2000 to 2008. More recently, Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016 by securing a close electoral college win. Although the election did not come down to a handful of votes in one state, Trump's votes in the Electoral College decided a tight race. Clinton had won the national popular vote by nearly 3 million votes. But the concentration of Trump voters in key districts in the swing states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan helped seal enough electoral votes to win the presidency. So that's what I was talking about. They break it down by districts and stuff like that within the states. Your vote might not directly elect the president, but if your vote joins enough others in your voting district or your county, your vote undoubtedly matters when it comes to electoral results. But if your vote is dependent on other people voting, then does that really matter?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't to a great. It's not like
weird.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
there's
I'm
still
not looking
three.
at these articles that made my argument.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say
there's still about 375 million people in the country, right? So, like, yeah, it does seem like one vote is a drop in the bucket when you put it in the context of 375 million, right? But of course, every vote matters because every vote could decide an election.
So most states have a winner-take-all system where the popular vote winner gets the state electoral votes. There are also local and state elections to consider. While presidential or other national elections usually get a significant voter turnout, local elections are typically decided by a much smaller group of voters. A Portland study, university study found that fewer than 15% of the eligible voters were turning out to vote mayors, council members, and other local officials. Low turnout means that important local issues are determined by a limited group of voters, making a single vote even more statistically meaningful. How can you vote heard? That's about voting. Yeah, so I guess that gives us an answer for the electoral college. It depends on your state and how they count the vote.
Yeah.
So now they break it down by district. That's a problem because they have like how much does a district vote or what is a district depends on how they draw the map.
Okay, but it depends on how they draw the map. What's the criteria that defines a district? District, is it an amount of people? Is it a surface area? Like, what's a district?
Uh, so I don't know, but they do stuff like redlining, so we can look that up. So I'm asking again.
An area of a country or city, especially one regarded as a distinct unit because of a particular characteristic. A particular characteristic.
Exactly. So like, what does that mean?
I don't know that's what I'm saying. These things is complicated.
Very, very. I think we're all kind of too stupid to even understand it. Like, yeah.
I try to
So
understand it.
you see, this is the exact reason why I always am like very, very hesitant at times to give my opinion on things to do with politics, because there's so much. There's just so much that I really just don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of inner workings.
So that's most people. Most people don't know a lot about politics, but like, if you're scared to talk about it, then you can't find the answer.
I mean, yeah, talk about it, give your opinion, but I just think like the people who hold such strong opinions in terms of like hold their they hold their opinions so strongly. Like, for example, I have an opinion on politics, but I hold it quite loosely. And if you show me something different, I'm willing to change my opinion. Right? But there's people who cannot do that, and yet they don't know much about how the thing even works or what it means to even vote in favor of your own best interest.
Yeah, so I would argue those people are more stupid than you would say you are.
Yeah, they are. But still, I don't think he meant like literally. He meant, yeah, I get probably he was saying that he feels
I don't really meant like uninformed, but like most people are uninformed in the country, right? So I think like overseas, like politics are more important because it affects their daily lives differently than it does. Like you could relatively live throughout the United States and not care about politics at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To where like some people, politics is a life or death matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like the American politics has actually been on autopilot for a little while because of the level of how comfortable people are, right?
Yeah.
But now, I think now maybe things would start to change because, shit changed for a lot of people all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that's like a main reason. I really don't. Okay, so I don't really know how, but I don't remember it being pushed this hard ever in any previous election for everybody to vote. It's literally everywhere.
I think it was the same way last election too.
Really?
No, I think it's been more heightened.
Yeah.
I think it's been more heightened this one than the previous one, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's always a push to vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now we have just more of a more capability to put it on all over Facebook and on Instagram and every single site that you visit has the click on here to register to vote type of thing, right? I don't remember ever seeing that as prevalently as I do right now. Maybe since I missed it.
Oh no, that one so like that, but not to the extent it is this year. But I think since we now see what a Trump presidency is, following that is important to you, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah.
That is probably the key difference.
And I think I think part of it, the Democrats, they're pushing for it more so than the Republicans. I think is because they didn't actually think Trump could win last election, and they feel like if they get everyone to vote for them or vote on their sides, that this could be a way to defeat Trump, basically. So they're pushing everyone to vote and lean towards their candidate. more so than Trump's.
And also, like, I also think, like, if you go on the internet, it's very, very easy to think, oh my gosh, every single human being on the planet is absolutely insane. But if you walk around and you talk to people and you ask about their opinions on certain things, a lot of times they're very nuanced, and they hold, like, given the context and everything like that, they, like, people's opinions tend to make sense. Like, there's not that many. There's some, but there's not that many actually ignorant people on Earth.
Yeah, I feel like it's like there's right, there's far right, far left, and then everybody else is in the middle, right? There's two people.
But the far right the far right and the far left are fringe groups, really, right? But they make the most noise.
Yeah.
I don't even think most people are in the middle. They're either right or left, but how left or right you are depends, I guess.
Might be left leaning or right leaning, but you might still agree with certain policies that belong traditionally to the other side. Like somebody was telling me, like, there's no way, right, that your opinions on monetary policy should tell me anything about what you should think about abortion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And people act like that's the case. People act like because you have Republican beliefs on one thing, you must have Republican beliefs or Democratic beliefs for that case on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the media that pushed that, right? So I remember when, like, that girl Tommy Lara, and she went on, like, the View and was, like, said she was against abortion. Man, she got fired from her job for that. Like, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Like, she wasn't against abortion. She was, like, pro-choice. So, like, she was like, she didn't believe personally she wouldn't get one, but she didn't believe it was the government's job to mandate they be illegal or not.
And everyone thinks that their side isn't common sense. Like, anybody that disagrees with me must be crazy, because what I'm saying right now makes all the sense in the world. What the heck is the case? What's the problem? How come these guys can't see it? And everybody thinks that, right? So it's very, very weird to navigate, like, a place where people are not up to getting their opinions challenged ever, right?
And I kind of fail to see how people, like, think like that, because even on one issue, it's not like one thing is right. Like, for example, on, like, guns, isn't, like, 100% right, but also unlimited guns, no matter what, that's not right too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, like, one example.
But I think it's just a societal thing, or a human nature thing, where it's just, I don't know. I think people don't want to. Yeah, like we've said, it's either, in people's eyes, it's either right or wrong, but people don't want to admit that sometimes both things can be true.
Yeah.
But they could do that for everything else, right? They could do that when talking about a TV show or music, but then when it comes to politics, all of a sudden it becomes more difficult.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
I mean, but then it should also be pointed out, right, that there is definitely such a thing as right and wrong, right? Because there's a danger sometimes of, like, because we're centrists in a way, or because you're a centrist, that you become like a relativist, like a moral relativist, and you just think everything. Yeah, both sides are true, but sometimes not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it depends on what issue you're talking about, right? So if you're talking about, like, all these wars that we have, that's the part where I'm not going to go on, like, yo, we need to do this to defend ourselves, preemptive, defensive. No, if nobody's attacking us, we should not be in all these countries and all these wars. That's the side where I can say that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, there you go. And what would be the intelligent counter argument to that?
So the kind of argument is, like, they want preemptive, like, attacks. So, like, before they can get us, we know they don't like us. It's like with Iran. We know Iran don't like us, but we shouldn't just go to war because they don't like us, right? Because they say all these things until something's done. Like that would be the argument from the other side, I guess.
That's like the political equivalent of like starting to run up on somebody because they looked at you funny.
I guess so, but I guess a better example that already happened was like the Iraq War, where they were saying there's weapons of mass destruction. Even though they weren't, they were saying Saddam was a dangerous person. He was, but like that don't mean we should have went to war with him because we just ruined the whole country. Like it's not the same right now as before. Like it was better off under Saddam's rule than it is now.
And I think it's also like the position that America occupies in the world. I don't know if it's by choice. It must be by choice at some point down the line, where they're almost like global police, right? It's their job to right the wrongs in the rest of the world in a way.
Yeah, like we're the moral police of everyone else.
Yeah, which I don't agree with at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with it at all. Like if it's not our fight, then like what are we in it for?
I mean, I have conflicting opinions on this one.
The reason why I say that is because now we have to pick and choose, right?
Though.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Right? We do have allies, and we do have political interests elsewhere because we need to. I mean, that's kind of what any country, every country needs allies, right? And in order to have allies, you can't just, not every country can be Switzerland and just be neutral and just never go to war, right? So like, because we have political interests elsewhere, we're kind of forced into these conflicts that we have no business being in. Like the Middle East has been at war since the Crusades.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? For a long ass time. What's that? 2,000 years? Probably longer. Probably longer. Right? So anybody that gets involved in that fight isn't going to bring peace. Right? Like it's only them that know like the depth of their issues. So like for the US to be involved in any capacity there, other than we need oil, therefore we need to go into the Middle East, it just doesn't make any sense.
And now you got people whose fathers went to the same war. Now their kids going to the same war. Like that don't even sound right.
Yeah, man. The same one.
Like imagine like your dad was in World War II. Then when you 18, you go to World War II. That's crazy. But that's happening now with like the stuff in the U.S. Like people who went to Iraq and Syria, their kids are going to war now.
Their kids.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like passed down. And nowadays, like war does also, there is a monetary incentive to go into war.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you have like military contracts. People get contracts. All these companies to go out there and fight, and then they don't have the same rules as the United States military. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And a lot of our technology can be attributed to our appetite for conflict and war, because a lot of our technology is initially developed for the military. Right?
Yeah, Microsoft has like contracts with the military.
So that's interesting in itself. What do you guys think about like the concept of eventually most wars, if not all wars, will start to be fought? Well, maybe not all wars, but most wars will actually start to be fought in the information space rather than out in the world. So like it's going to be a war of information. Like we already have, like for example, the evidence of Russia's interference in American public policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We already have that there. And we know Russia does things like that. And we know that it's effective in influencing public policy, right? What do you guys think? Do you guys think that's going to be the next iteration of how we fight?
I think it'll be a part of it. I still think there'll still be battlefield like wars that are decided on the battlefield and such, but I think the information aspect of it, I think will only grow as like these technologies keep as we keep growing in the digital age and stuff. I think it will grow, but I think it'll be a component. I don't think it'll be the main warfare, I guess.
So disinformation to go to war isn't like a new thing, right? It's new on technology space, but overall, it's not new. People have lied to go to wars all the time, whatever country you talk about. So I don't know how different it would be.
I mean, but think about it right now, right? Walter, right now, your voice is on the internet, right? Somebody can come right now, right? Not in the future, right now, and take your voice and make you say whatever they want you to say with your voice. And there's no way necessarily that anybody's going to be able to authenticate whether that's you or whether that's somebody else. I mean, right now, the technology still maybe needs a little bit of refinement, but we know how these things go. In 5 years, it will be almost flawless. Right? In 5 years, people could actually steal your entire likeness and make you say crazy, outrageous things that you would never say, and you might deny it, but now they have you on tape saying it.
So that technology exists now. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I think that's been happening. For years now. I think. I don't think this is something new.
Yeah. So the only thing I could think that's new is I guess you could destroy a country from within using disinformation for them to fight against each other. That might be the new thing.
Yeah, I mean, Russian. Have you guys heard of the YouTube channel RT?
Yeah.
No.
It's like a news outlet. So RT.
They've been on YouTube, but they're like a Russian news site.
Yeah, it's Russian television. That's what RT stands for, right?
Yeah.
And RT has some really good, credible journalism, right? Really, really good, credible. If you go there right now, there's a lot of stuff over there that's actually really it's good journalism. But that's about 80% of what's on RT. And then another 20% is literally their stated goal. I think either the CEO or the chief editor or whatever, he actually is on record saying that part of RT's mission is to advance. I can't remember how he put it. Something to advance Russian interests elsewhere. So it's that RT is actually owned by the Russian government, right? And it's everywhere. You can access it here. You can access it anywhere. And its stated mission is partly propaganda.
So I don't see it as I'm not saying it's the same as Fox News, but it's not also that different because they don't have a lot of their journalists aren't necessarily credible, but the Republicans use them as a tool to get information to their voters and their people.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the difference between Fox News and RT is Fox News. There's not much credible journalism in Fox News. There's enough credible journalism in RT where you kind of go, you kind of don't know what to believe. You know what I mean?
I think maybe where you're getting at too, Collins, is that I guess with Fox News, it's more of a national thing where I guess the RT is trying to make it more of a global thing where the world kind of views Russia's views, because the world basically has outcasted Russia basically.
Yeah,
and
so Russia kind of has to it has to run a lot of propaganda in order to maintain good relations with the rest of the world. And it's I don't know. It's really interesting how these things can unfold.
Yeah.
But I think there are very few countries that don't have propaganda around the world.
Huh?
I think there are very few countries that don't engage in propaganda.
That's true. But I just think I think the capacity for things to get worse is what's interesting, right? Because like for example, right, like 10 years ago, let's say, or let's say 20 years ago, just to be safe, right? If you were caught on tape saying, I don't know, something that betrays you as a pedophile, there's no plausible way for you to deny that it wasn't you just talking on tape. But in the future, there'll be no way for you to authenticate any piece of audio, right? Even if it sounds exactly like me. Like if somebody managed to capture my voice and put it somewhere else saying some mad stuff about like I don't even want to repeat it because somebody might be watching this right now. But but you know what I'm saying? Like just some crazy stuff. Have me saying crazy stuff, right? That I clearly would never believe. Like there'd be no way for me to deny it necessarily, but then there'll be no way for other people to authenticate what's true and what's not. So like we're just going to continue to get more and more confused about what's real out there.
I think we're at that stage right now, though.
Yeah, I'm saying it's going to get worse. I'm saying it's going to get worse.
Oh,
Because we also do have we have an incentive to keep improving in that area. Like think about video games, right? Video games become more and more fun by becoming more and more, or some of them anyway, they become more and more fun by becoming more and more realistic. And the more you can buy into the idea that this is actually a real person doing real things in this world, the better the video game, the more immersive the video game will be. But if that piece of technology is already being created for the purpose of creating video games, of course, there's going to be people that are going to use it for other means. Or CGI in movies. Like I was watching like have you guys ever like just been curious and tried to watch a horror movie from the 1960s?
Nah, I don't be watching the movies from the 1960s, boss.
I have, like me neither, but I've tried it, right? And at the time, these movies would have you shitting bricks, excuse my language. But you watch it now, it's like, what the? It's very difficult to buy into it. Like nothing is scary because we're so desensitized to that because we have all this new technology of how to make things way more scary, way more immersive, way more realistic. So if you can, like, people will go to the movies for the purposes of being brainwashed for an hour and a half.
Well, yeah, but I think part of the reason why that plays that way is because of sometimes movies are based on realistic experiences. So because like now things that happen in the real world become a part of movies, I think that plays a part of why things are more realistic now because of how we've advanced.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that plays a small part, but then that only accounts for maybe a certain percentage of the movies that are out there, right? The rest of them, it's actually the flip of that.
Hey, what do you mean?
Well, okay. Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry. Like I have to, because
You said it was the flip. So what do you mean? What's the opposite?
Like, so you're saying that because like movies are taking more and more realistic themes, and that's why a lot of there's a lot of realism in movies, right? But
well, yeah, because
they also have the ability to make a fantasy world a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems more realistic, even though it's a completely imaginary scenario. Like, you're able to buy into it way more now than you ever were in the past. You know?
And my thing is because I think violence has gotten more sophisticated or better lack of words, crazier than how it was in the 1960s because some of like the technologies, but then some of I don't know, because we glorify violence a lot here, and that because we glorify violence, it gets people's brains to start thinking of even more crazier things to do than what could have been done in the 1960s, I guess.
Mm. Like I wonder, like, because I always hear this, like the idea that we glorify certain things, but like, do you think violence is just a part of what we are?
Yeah,
like as a species?
It is, but I think in the United States it's more so than other countries. But I think other countries have violence. Don't get me wrong, but I think in the United States.
Yeah, definitely. Like the U.S. is definitely the first place where I've been to where you'll readily, like if you go up to any door, like, you know, for example, I'll be like, I'm a delivery driver, right? And sometimes you go up to somebody's house, right? And you'll see like a threat, essentially. If you're a burglar, I'm going to shoot you, type of thing. You see that everywhere. But like in a lot of other places where like they don't have the same gun laws as the US, you don't just like, you're not readily just going to see posted everywhere a threat to shoot you if you try to rob my house.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like that kind of ties into the idea that maybe the US glorifies war, violence, and things like that. But do you also think that a part of that is people not having enough to complain about here?
I mean, I guess so, because like if you live in relative peace, you don't understand violence, like the consequence of violence and how bad it can get. Because like a lot of the wars we haven't had a war fought on our soil since the Civil War. That might be the only war besides the Revolutionary War that fought on our actual soil.
The Civil War. Yeah, exactly, right? So it's kind of like violence for the US is something that you see on TV. And in the case of America, there's so many examples that have been given of actual victory in war that it's so easy for people to kind of be taken in by the idea that, oh, you know, America just seems to always win the wars, so I love America, therefore I love wars, and I want to, you know, like there's the gung-ho-ness of people wanting to, you know, because I'm always kind of very, very surprised, because I've never really considered joining the military, joining the army for any reason. And one of the main reasons why I've never considered joining it is because I don't want to go to war, right? But for some people, if you tell them that you don't want to go to war, they'll immediately go, oh, you're a pussy. You say you love this country, you're not willing to go die for it? Well, no. I'll die for my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not for a patch of land.
Yeah, I mean, it just also like once we win the war, like people don't think what happens after you win the war, right? There's a whole country that's decimated, right? There's a bunch of casualties of war, people who have nothing to do with the conflict, and that gets downplayed a lot by the people who run these wars. But it's still a main thing, right? So like right now in Yemen, there's a war going on, but it's not with the Yemen people; it's with other countries just fighting the war in Yemen. It's like Iran backing all these other groups, then Saudi Arabia, who's getting backed by the U.S. So, like, it's just things like that just turns you off to even joining a military in the first place.
Yemen is hosting the war.
No, they're not hosting the war. The war is being hosted in their country.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, it's crazy. It's like a...
And they have nothing to do with what's happening there. It's just that's the playground the war is being fought in. And then it's starving. Like, I'm gonna see if I can find it. There was like a drone that went through and saw like just a city in Yemen that showed the casualty of the war. The whole city just destroyed.
That's crazy, man.
Let me see. I'm trying to find like a short clip. I'm about to share my screen. I found it. Ironically, this is from RT. We were just talking about too. But so I don't know if it's playing well on my thing, but you can see like the destruction and stuff like that. Like all these buildings just caved in. People lived in these buildings too.
But yeah, yeah, like you said, Walter, I think people don't understand the consequences of war. Because like, there is a winner, but it comes at a cost, and this is the cost that happens.
But it's not only for the losers, for the winners too, right? Because when these people come back, they have PTSD and all this type of other stuff that don't necessarily get dealt with. There's homelessness, the crisis with some of the military, the suicide crisis with the people in the military. So, like, and a lot of these are just drone strikes too. They're not people actually doing them themselves. They're sitting in another room, pressing a button, and a bomb goes off. Right? So, like, even like if you had a criticism with Obama, the amount of drone strikes he did, like, look at these kids living in this building. Would you want your kids to live in that type of condition?
Yeah, no.
Come on, man.
This is the real tricky thing about the office of the president. Because regardless of how brilliant or charismatic or admirable of a leader as you have in office, at some point, if they're in office for long enough, they're going to have to make certain decisions like that one. Right? Because you are still the commander-in-chief. So, like, the military operations, the buck still stops with you at the end of the day when things happen like that. So that's the tricky thing. Like that. So like the president, it's such a strange job. I think it's impossible.
I mean, so you have to make these decisions, but like each decision you could criticize. Like to back people fighting in that situation, that has nothing to do with the United States. Why would you back them? Because they're our allies.
Well, that's a good reason from one perspective. From our perspective as citizens, it doesn't make any sense because we have empathy, we can empathize with the human beings whose lives have been affected by this war. But if you're like the way these countries, like, I'm sure if you stepped in any kind of general assembly of the UN or anything like that, you'll find a lot of these people that are their only thing is to get what's best for their country and their cause. And that's literally, they're always playing for their team. So it doesn't really actually matter at the end of the day what happens to some children far away over there. If bombing them gets us what we want, that's literally what they're going to do in office.
So the reason why I say that is like right now, one of the people in that war is Saudi Arabia, which we're backing them, supporting them. But when we wanted to go to Iraq, they didn't support us because they didn't want us to. And they were correct in that choice. But if then they didn't want to support us then, how we can't turn around and not support them now? We just blindly do it?
Well, I doubt it's blindly. I don't know why, but I doubt it's blindly.
So you don't have to always agree with your allies and go with everything your allies are doing. That's just my point.
Well, how do these allegiances get formed? Is it a contract?
Well, I don't know about all of them. Sometimes are their business allegiance, their military allies. Like each ally has different sources of why. So like with Saudi Arabia, I think most of it is like monetary stuff like that, money, oil, stuff like that. Because like the crown prince, their family, they're called like the House of Saud. They have like a estimated net worth. The whole family, it's like 2 trillion among all of them.
Like, okay, so like if you have an allegiance, I'm sure there's something that's written down on a sheet of paper, right? There's terms and conditions written down on a sheet of paper that has to be signed by whoever occupies the highest office. I don't know if it's ambassadors that do it, that form these treaties or allegiances or whatever. But like, right, like I'm sure there has to be a few clauses in that sheet of paper that will determine what your involvement as a country is if this country gets attacked. So like, let's say we have an ally. Give us a U.S. ally. I actually don't know any of them up top, and I don't just want to throw a name out.
Well, Saudi Arabia is one, but we can go with like the UK.
Okay, so the UK, right? So say as a part of the allegiance, right? If the UK gets attacked, the US Army will deploy soldiers in order to try and help the UK fight off the insurgents or the attackers, right? They have to do that then, if it's signed on the sheet of paper, right? And that might mean that the president would have to call for drone strikes on civilian populations at some point.
But then there's actual war crimes that there's like our world war crimes that you can get prosecuted under.
Well, because of the collateral damage. Like I just don't see how war can go on without collateral damage.
Yeah, no. So there's going to be collateral damage, but like there has to be a point where like you have to like weigh it down and say when is enough, right? Because collateral damage is a word, but the people who are damaged are actual people.
They are.
Like even if you don't hit the people, right? Like you still destroy the whole country. Are you there to fix the country after it's destroyed?
Exactly. Businesses, like even the people who don't get killed immediately by the war, the businesses get destroyed. They become internally displaced, or so many other things could happen. The trauma aspect of things, right? Where you've seen some horrific stuff happen to somebody that like that could take generations to reverse, because it's like that's huge. But I don't know, like it's that's why I just think in order to occupy these offices, you just have to agree to a life with blood on your hands.
So when you were talking about like countries and writing them down and stuff like that, some of the countries that oppose, I'm looking this up right now. It's on Wikipedia, so I don't know how credible you want to look at that. But some of the countries they have listed that oppose us are our allies. So they have Europe, France, Germany. All of those are our allies, and they oppose us going into the war. And they not participate. So that's what I'm saying. Like the U.S. could easily do the same if other countries could do it to us.
Yeah, I guess they could. They could. I mean, honestly, I just don't even know.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's hard. I guess.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't even know, like what the process is, how they come to these conclusions. I don't know what they're considering. Because we could all sit here and it's armchair world leaders and watch it and criticize it. Like until you're in that kind of an environment, and you're told right off the bat, these are your powers, and these are the things that you don't have. These are the kinds of decisions that we expect you to make. And not every single decision that you're going to have to make is going to make you look like a superhero or a superstar. Like, we don't actually know. Like, we're speaking from complete inexperience. Like, there's a handful of human beings that have ever lived that knows what it's like to be president of any country.
Yeah. So we don't have the experience, but we can look at the history, right? And the history shows us going to these countries hasn't really done anything for us.
Right.
Like, at least for the people of our country. Like what benefit has the people going to all these different wars? Because if we look up the list of wars we've been in since for a while, there's a bunch of times we've been a whole bunch of countries.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm about to look it up right now. U.S. wars. Let me find another website.
Unfortunate as it may be, it could be that the reason why we wouldn't back down, or we wouldn't have tried to, like other countries, would be because maybe there's some shady deals that's going on that we're doing with these countries while we consider going to war while other countries are, and that's the only thing that makes sense to me of why we still try to.
And I think putting things into context is also important. Like, you have to think, like, the way we have the world set up right now is relatively recent, because before what we're doing now, empires were common. It was common for Britain to own most of the world. It was common for the Roman Empire to span all the way up until Egypt. It was normal, So, like, now we've kind of, like, we don't have empires anymore. But I think that instinct for us to own or to be implicated in the politics of, like, far away lands is still there, and it's it can't necessarily be shaken in a couple of generations. It may never even actually be shaken. So it's just interesting. I think that context kind of, for me, explains why we always feel the need to interfere to this level in other countries.
And I'm sure some of it was, like, actually right, and we should have done it. We helped other people in other countries, but, like, I'm looking at some lists right now. We've been in some type of conflict since 1950.
Since 1950?
Yeah.
I thought it would be longer, to be honest with you.
Huh?
I thought it would be longer. Because the Second World War ended in 1945.
Yeah. I mean, this is the list I'm looking at right now, but the Second World War, that makes sense why we was in that.
Yeah.
Like, we were directly attacked, so they wanted to go to war. There's nothing you could really say. Even like the Afghanistan war, that's where the people came from. So yeah, go. That's where their headquarters are at. Go get them. But some of these wars, I don't know if we should have been in them or not.
That 1950 thing is just like war that's waged outside of American soil.
Well, all of our wars have been outside of American soil, but this is just from 1950 and present. I don't know why they chose 1950, but that's where it just starts at.
Because they could have chosen the Second World War. Wait, was the U.S. involved in the First World War?
Yeah,
they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they came in late into the second.
Yeah. Oh, both of them, they came in late. They didn't want to be in both of them at the time.
That's interesting.
Oh, so they actually do have some older conflicts, but like.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. American history is mostly conflict.
Well, it started with a conflict, right? To get the independence.
Yeah, and then there was, almost every step of the way, there's been some sort of conflict before any major decision, any major development.
Even in terms of just expanding the country from the 13 colonies and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about the Trail of Tears, and then you have the Civil Wars. How many Civil Wars? Was there just one?
Huh?
Was it just one Civil War? Excuse my ignorance.
Yeah.
Just one, right? I said Civil Wars. But just one.
Yeah.
And that was basically when Texas seceded.
Well, South Carolina was the first one to secede.
Yeah. Well, the South.
Yeah, so South Carolina was the first one to secede, then a whole bunch of other states followed through with them.
Yeah. It was very strange, man.
Yeah. But damn, John, you've been quiet, man. You still here?
Yeah, no, I'm just letting everything rock. You got, because I was gonna get into from this topic. I was gonna get into celebrities in politics. Because the whole situation that happened with Snoop Dogg, I'm pretty sure you're aware about it. Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, the disrespect. I'm so sorry, my bad. You guys know about Ice Cube and how he was willing to discuss Trump about how he can help contribute. Well, not contribute, but how he can help the Black community moving forward if he gets reelected. And he was just interested about the platinum plan that was brought about by Donald Trump. And he got a lot of flack for it, a lot of coon accusations, I would say. A lot of coon accusations.
Oh, what, to Ice Cube?
Yeah.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
Never heard of it?
Not to Ice Cube. Because he's been talking about this for a very, very long time. A contract with Black America.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of that? A contract with Black America. So he's giving all of these candidates, and as he should, a fair shake to hear out what they actually have to offer Black America. An actual plan. And that's what you should do. That's what you should do, And so, for me, he's not supposed to entertain anything Donald Trump because you don't like him. It's very strange.
Well, that's the argument people are making, but he went to both candidates, and then he said when he went to the Democrat, they told him after the election. Then he went to Trump. They actually tried to help, and they said some of the stuff he said they used in the that platinum plan they put out. But I don't know how true that part is. And he didn't actually directly meet with Trump. He met with one of their people, but one of the people who supported him put it out there. Ice Cube didn't put out that he met with them. They put it out there and they put the wrong information and made it seem like he directly met with Trump and made this plan with Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
at some point, in order for people to progress, you're gonna have to face the demons. You're gonna have to face things that you don't like. You're gonna have to address things that you don't like. And the fact that you're just gonna out somebody just because he was willing to put his foot forward and say, "Hey, we demand something. If we're gonna put our vote, if we're gonna vote for you, what are you going to do for us? What's our incentive? What's in it for us?"
Yeah, people don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils anymore. Necessarily, they want to vote for somebody that has a plan in place for them. And if you don't have that plan in place, then it's highly likely you're going to. That's how it should be. It's highly likely you're going to lose votes from that specific demographic, right? So if that's true, I mean, I still have to read up on it. But if it's true that he went to whatever representative or whoever it is from the Democratic side, and they said, they wanted to postpone it until after the election, and the Republicans actually had a plan in place before the election to tell him what they planned to do with the vote once they had it, then obviously he should listen. If he didn't listen, he'd be a hypocrite. I'd be disappointed in him if he didn't listen.
Yeah, well, that part about the Democrats came directly from Ice Cube. He said on his Twitter, I'm trying to find it right now.
Well,
like,
Rudy has something. Rudy has something for that.
Even if, like, what you call it, like, let me just read this. Rapper Ice Cube is clarifying his comments about working with President Donald Trump on a plan geared toward helping Black Americans after he landed in hot water on social media. I didn't run to go work with any campaign. Both campaigns contacted me, he told Chris Cuomo on Friday. Both campaigns wanted me to talk about the contract with Black America. We love what you have, but let's really dig into it after the election. And one campaign said, we love what you have to do. We love what you have. Do you mind talking to us about it? And that's what I did. I didn't run to anybody. Ice Cube has been long critical of Trump, having been even released a song titled Arrest the President. So it came as a shock to many who learned the NWA rapper and Trump have been working together. The Boys in the Hood star says he's open to working with the Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden team and Trump's team, but only the latter invited him to have a conversation about it now. I'm not playing no more of these political games. I'm going to whoever is in the power, and I'm going to speak about them, about our problems. I'm not going in there talking about minorities. I'm not going there talking about people of color or diversity or none of that stuff. I'm going there for Black Americans, the ones who are the descendants of slaves. The rapper added that he doesn't trust Biden nor Trump, and he's not in anybody's team, but he'll work with whoever's in power. The backlash erupted Tuesday when Trump's senior advisor, Katrina Pearson, tweeted out her appreciation for Jackson and his willingness to step up and work with President Trump's administration to develop the Platinum Plan. The West Coast rapper confirmed that his participation in the Platinum Plan in a tweet Wednesday that revealed both Democrats and Republicans approached him about his contract with Black America, a 22-page blueprint to achieve racial economic justice that Ice Cube spearheaded. Dem said, we'll address the CWA after the election. Trump campaign made some adjustments to their plan after talking with us about the CWA. Many criticized Ice Cube for working with the dark side. The wild thing is that Eazy-E went to a fundraiser for George H.W. Bush White House in 1991 and got criticized about it for the rest of his life. Ice Cube had apparently forgotten about that when he decided to collaborate with an infamous Willie Worst administration tweeted Jelani Cobb about Jackson. I don't think we need to read that part, but basically, yeah, just as what I said, that he went to both parties and one party wanted to talk, the other one didn't.
Exactly.
So the rest just listen to people's reactions.
Exactly. And like, that's the thing. I mean, he should do that. He should do that. You know, this idea, and we were talking about this before, right? Where people just automatically think that if you're Black, you got to be on a certain side. You know? And remember we watched that video the other day of Nelson Mandela saying, you know, what is it? The biggest mistake that political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. And he went on to say that our relationship to anybody is going to be dictated by their relationship to our struggle, right? So of course you have to lead with what it is what's in your best interest. Because what you're going to vote for is what's in your best interest. And if nobody has a plan for you, then how can you expect people to just vote for you because they don't want to vote for the other guy, right? We already know that Ice Cube doesn't necessarily like Donald Trump as a person, but it's not about him. It's about what's gonna come into play that's gonna help me and people like me, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variables in play with what that happened, because it's like we discussed it earlier too about misinformation. Part of it was misinformation from the Trump campaign with the Pearson lady putting out that tweet when actually that's not the true story, as Ice Cube later explained. And then the other part of it is, like we discussed it again today, if you don't agree with what people do or what they believe in, then like they're ready to just crucify you.
Exactly. And you know, here's the thing, right? And the smart thing to do at this point is, because we kind of have time before the votes are tallied is the Democrats would come correct with that plan that he's requesting that's going to help out Black America. And their plan has to be better than the proposal that the Republicans have. Because if they don't have that, then they're going to lose Ice Cube's vote. Right? And that's how it should be. You should be able to hold a vote hostage until somebody shows you something that you want to see.
So Diddy had said that exactly like a few months ago. I forgot what what his exact words were, but he was saying that Black people should hold their vote and not vote, and people try to criticize him for that, saying, "Oh, if you don't vote, doesn't vote for Trump." But like, if it's votes for Trump, so what? Like, what's more important? If you vote and you just vote and that's it, or if you don't vote but you're actually doing work to help the community, who's more effective?
Exactly.
Because even like with Ice Cube meeting with Trump, that ain't like the first time something like that was happening. Malcolm X met with the KKK. Is you gonna call him a sellout?
Exactly.
Right, and the KKK is much worse than Trump. So people don't really know history in terms of like you have to meet with other people, even if they're your enemies. Like people meet.
Yeah. Just a quick sidebar from this conversation, based off of what you said about people meeting with the KKK. Have you guys ever heard of this guy called Daryl Davis?
Was he that black guy?
Yeah, he's like a musician. He's like a black musician that likes.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
That likes to meet with members of the KKK.
Yeah, he's like converted. Like
look at him.
You might have seen it before, but he's like converted. What you call it?
Like
a
members
bunch of
of the
KKK people away from the KKK. It's Daryl Davis, not Daniel Davis.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl Davis.
So I have like an article here that's talking about him. So Daryl. So this is him right here. He actually has a KK rose in his house, so I've seen like a bunch of videos on it. But Daryl Davis is a beauty musician, but he also has what some might call an interesting hobby. For the past 30 years, Davis, a black man, has spent time befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan. He once said friendship blossoms. The Klansmen realized that their hate may be misguided. Since Davis started talking with these members, he has said 200 Klansmen have given up their roles. What happens? Davis collects the robes and keeps them in his home as a reminder of the dent he has made in racism by simply sitting down and having dinner with people. Interview. But yeah, that's basically what he does. He interviews KKK people, he talks to them, tries to convert them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. That's an important thing to do because he wanted to give them his side of what he feels in what they do, and I can't speak for him, but the moral of the story is he wasn't like some people where they just criticize these people and don't even hear what they have to say or don't even understand why they do these things. Like that's the important thing we have to I think
Yeah, and he's like a very he's in an interesting position, right? Because he's a musician and a very good one. And he plays a specific style of music that I guess really, really attracts these KKK members because a lot of their favorite bands kind of sound a little bit like him, right? That's the kind of story, right? And he goes in on a thing of like he wants to educate them on where that music actually came from, and a lot of that music comes from black people. It's black people that originated it, and it's black musicians that are the most legendary in it. It's like jazz, like a type of jazz that they do or something. And like from there, like that's the entry point for them to then just start seeing him as not what they've been raised to think of black people as. So that's why, like, sometimes when I see people that just hold ignorant opinions, I find it very difficult sometimes to even judge them because it's what they've been exposed to a lot of times. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, back to the broader conversation of like celebrities in politics, it's not the celebrities that are the problem. It's the people's reaction to the celebrities that are the problem. Because if they agree with them, then they'll go with their point. But they don't agree with them, they'll say stuff like, "Oh, we don't need you. like when that person said for LeBron, shut up and dribble and all that other type of stuff. It's like depending on who the celebrity is and their opinion is whether they agree with them or not. Not necessarily the celebrities, because even though they have like points that are misinformed and stuff like that, like a lot of people put them out there, they still they're the same as everyone else. Not like the people they're talking to aren't more informed than them. A bunch of people are misinformed. They just have a bigger platform.
Yeah, precisely that, man. Yo, Rudy, what are we? How many minutes are we at now?
We're heading to like 2 hours.
Oh, we're headed towards 2 hours.
We're like close to 2 hours.
Man, our episodes recently have become longer.
It's good.
Yeah, we don't have a time limit.
It's interesting.
Yeah, like one person who like talks to the politics a lot is Cardi B, but people try to criticize her, but like it doesn't mean she shouldn't have a platform to speak what she believes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, having said that, like this is where it becomes really, really, really interesting. Cardi B, because of the public image that she has, it's very, very difficult for anybody, and it's understandable, to really kind of take her seriously when it comes to issues of politics. But of course she'll have an opinion. Of course she will. But it's, I don't know, like,
It shouldn't be that way though. It shouldn't be just because of her image. It shouldn't be that way. She may be more informed than somebody else who has a perfect image.
Well, yes, I guess, but like it depends on what she has to say and how actually informed she is, or what angle she takes when she tries to attack political matters. Because if she comes at it, any celebrity that approaches politics as a way of like, in a way to try and be an expert on certain things, kind of always going to fall short. And this actually kind of bleeds into the Kim Kardashian. Right? Kim Kardashian has a certain public image as well, right? But in the political atmosphere, I think we touched on it maybe in the last episode or something. She's doing a lot for inmates in terms of getting them released, right? Kim Kardashian.
So the difference between Cardi B and Kim Kardashian is Kim Kardashian is actually out there doing the work. Cardi B's in the political discussion, so there's nothing wrong with it. Like either one, right? Even Cardi B, like she's not always right? And even a lot of times she's wrong, or the way she words it, she doesn't word it correctly, but she has some sort of understanding. But it's the reaction that people are for other celebrities. That what I'm trying to say is, depending on where you fall, is how you criticize it. They're not actually reacting to the substance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
But people criticize LeBron James when he talks about his politics, but like LeBron does, he does both. He has the actual work and he contributes to the political discussion.
Yeah, it's very well documented for LeBron James, for example, to be active in the political landscape. And another really, really good example, and Rudy, you know this one, right? Is Mesut Ozil. Right?
Who's that?
Midfielder for Arsenal.
Yeah, like he's always doing charity work, always, right? So like recently, not even recently, maybe like last year or something. Like he was basically advocating for the Uyghur Muslims in China that were getting like abused in China. Was it by the Chinese government or by, I don't know what exactly it was.
I think it's by the Chinese government, but I haven't like actually read up on that. I just seen like certain stuff. I haven't read up on it. So
yeah, so he kind of used his platform once to talk. He used his platform once to speak on that, right? And as soon as he said anything about that, Arsenal Football Club, since they have interest in China, right? Since they have interest in China, distanced themselves from him and those statements, right? And this was happening. So just to give you guys a timeline, right? So obviously before all the corona and lockdown and everything, he was playing every single game, right? Every single game for Arsenal he was playing. And then he made his statement during the lockdown, right? And then ever since, he's not played a single game. He played in one friendly that wasn't even televised. And a lot of people were speculating that was basically because the club had chosen a side. And they chose the side that is going to pay them money rather than backing the player up who he's a Muslim himself. He has every single right to be outraged if he feels like members of his communities are being mistreated anywhere in the world, and he should talk about it. But there are political interests to protect.
I have the article up if you guys aren't aware.
Yeah, you can read it. Go down. China's approach to human rights and its relationship with global sports were once again in the spotlight this weekend after soccer star criticized the country's treatment of its Uyghur Muslim minority. How you say his name?
Mesut Ozil.
Okay,
Mesut Ozil. Yeah.
A prominent player for the English soccer club Arsenal denounced China's policies towards Muslim residents in a post on Twitter and Instagram Friday. He was met by criticism online in China and a decision from Chinese TV to not broadcast Sunday's marquee game involving the club. The controversy comes months after the NBA faced a sustained backlash after Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey expressed apparent support for the protests of Hong Kong. The high-profile incident developed into a crisis for the league. Now soccer may have to confront the same questions, as an estimated 1 million people have been detained in China's network of Muslims internment centers across the western province of, I think that's Shanghai. In the social media post, Ozil, who is Muslim, called Uyghurs warriors who resist persecution and criticized China's crackdown and silence of Muslims in response. He has more than 20 million followers in a post translated from Turkish. Qurans are burned, mosques are closed down, Islamic theology schools, madrasas are burned, religious scholars were killed by one. Despite this, all Muslims stay quiet. Arsenal, which has a large following in China, has previously toured the country, sought to distance itself from the comments. In a statement to its official account, the Chinese social media platform Weibo, Arsenal insisted that the player was not speaking for the club and that it remained apolitical. The content he expresses is Ozil's personal opinion, the statement said. But on Sunday, the state-run newspaper Global Times state-run CCTV will no longer be broadcasting Sunday's English Premier League clash between Arsenal and Manchester City. It said a decision was made after Ozil's false comments on Shanghai disappointed the Chinese fans and football governing authorities. Arsenal post in Weibo was met with angry replies, which one showing the shredded Ozil soccer jersey next to a pair of scissors, others demanding that he be expelled from the club. The response from China echoed, which was met by the Rockets and NBA in October. The broadcast of preseason NBA games were canceled, and events in the country were met with protests, throwing a wrench into the league's push to cultivate loyal spectators and powerful investors in the country. This is kind of funny because I guess the opposite of what happened in the NBA. So they're talking about Daryl Morey for the Rockets. He posted and supported them, but it was right before they had to go to China or something like that. Then some people agree with him. LeBron was he was misinformed, but I think when he did it because they were going to China within the weeks.
I think the Lakers and the Nets were in China by the time Morey made those comments. So that was the whole issue.
Yeah, so they were going to China. Then people there was you shouldn't have posted that. Then the Chinese government basically cut all ties with the NBA, and they lost I think they said $20 billion off of that. So that's interesting.
This dude has not played a single game pretty much since. Wait, when was that statement made by him? Was it during?
Go to the article. It probably. Women's article made
during the lockdown.
So like December.
Oh, okay. So that was
before the lockdown, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before it. And literally, he was playing games all the way leading up to the lockdowns, and then after the lockdowns, not played a single televised game. He's played one game, and it wasn't televised.
That's crazy. But this shows how it gets the celebrities in politics is a little different when it's like more international. There's more at stake because like they said he put it in Turkish. Is he from Turkey?
Well,
his parents are from Turkey. He's originally from Germany.
Yeah, Turkish.
Oh, his parents because like I don't know if you know Enes Kanter, who plays in the NBA on the Celtics. He's from Turkey and like he has problem with the Turkish government because they're oppressive and he speaks out against them and like his family still lives in Turkey. So like he actually recently just got a citizenship here, but like you could type that in. But his father recently just got released from jails, and there was one time where he had to go play in Toronto, but he didn't want to go play there because he felt like you can click down right there, get the second article. He didn't want to go play there because he felt like if he went to the airport in Canada, the Turkish government could get to him there. So like he didn't go to the game that time. So it's just funny how when like it's international with celebrities, it's a little different. But let's go down. All right. Okay. In response to accusations of terrorism from the Turkish government, Boston Celtics center Enes Kanter assured Thursday that he only terrorizes the basketball rim. You guys have probably heard that my dad finally has his freedom after 7 years. So based off his criticism in of Turkey, his dad went to jail for 7 years to punish him. That's crazy. You know we've been fighting the Turkish government for years now, he remarked. In June, Kanter's father, Mehmet Kanter, was acquitted of terror charges after being accused of orchestrating a failed coup in 2016 in partnership with a U.S.-based cleric. I don't even know who that is. Gulen. Gulen denied any connection with the matter. In addition, Kanter's own passport was revoked in 2017, and later the government introduced a international arrest for his warrant. So that's why he didn't want to go to Toronto those times. Kanter said he believes his own criticism of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's human rights records have led to the regime to target his family. So I feel like my dad finally has his freedom, but my fight is far from over because my family is only one. My dad is only one. So I feel like I'm not going to stop talking about all this stuff until every innocent soul in those jails is free. I mean, it's funny because they keep calling me a terrorist. I'm actually telling them the only thing I terrorize is the basketball rim. But you have to read the whole article, but like it just goes into like depending like when it gets to international levels and your celebrity, it's a little different. Like so with the pockets of other people is more serious.
Yeah, very, very serious. Like when you're that big of a figure within your sport or within your team, and you make a political statement like that. I mean, look what happened to Colin Kaepernick. We don't even have to go too far.
Yeah.
You take a stand like that, and all of a sudden you're completely exiled from the sport that you spent all your life trying to get into. But that kind of goes down to, well, are you an activist first, or are you a sportsman first? Hello, you back?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
What were you saying?
Yeah, it's like you kind of have to make the choice of whether you want to be an activist first or a professional athlete first. And then, like for example, Colin Kaepernick decided that, you know what, like I would much rather fall on this sword right here because it's for the greater good as far as I'm concerned. And
well, he didn't make that decision because he was still trying to get back in the NFL for a long time. It just after a while he just stuck with what he wanted. Like he was true to what he wanted, so the consequences of it for him is okay because that's what he wanted to do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but like, he might have tried to get back into the NFL as you would expect him to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it's not like he just kneeled once. He kneeled over and over and over again amidst huge, loud criticism, and he had every single opportunity to stop kneeling, and he didn't until eventually they kicked him out of the sport, essentially. And now, now he looks like a complete legend. Everyone talks about Colin Kaepernick. There's people who don't even watch football that know who that is.
So that's because the time period we're in, because somebody did it in the NBA a long time ago, like in the 90s. He was on the Bulls when Jordan was playing. I forgot his name, but I think it was Craig Hodges. He was a good shooter. And then he was kneeling because he was Muslim, so he objected prior to the national anthem just because for the stuff the United States stands for. And then he got kicked out of the league, and he never played again. He was an amazing shooter, and his career got short. So if you're willing to lose your career over it, is another thing people don't consider when celebrities do these things. Even the Dissy chicks, they were against the war, and they were somewhere over seas, and they said something. I forgot exactly what it was, but they got a ban from the radio. Labels wouldn't drop their music, and their career just went away based on the criticism of the United States. So there's a cost to it that people don't think about when they always criticize celebrities for these things.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, but I'm about to be out.
I think I was about to say I think that's actually long enough for the podcast.
Just under 2 hours.
Just under.
Good show today. A lot of information.
Yeah. That one was good. I like how we pulled up the articles. I think everything kind of went really smoothly with respects to that.
Well, we're getting better at it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on my page, John Njoga. That is JOHNNJOGA. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you go check out our other YouTube page by our editor, Rudy Aguilar. The name of the channel is JUNIO Rudy, Junior Rudy. And yeah, we're out. A great episode, guys. I'll see you later.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right.
Delete.